We're back. Caffe Panna Fall Pack Part 2. Now, if the first review didn't quite convince you enough to buy, I don't want to ruin anything, but I think this second part might convince you. And while we're talking about that, I believe you have, I know for a fact, at least 2 more Mondays, maybe 3. I'll find out and let you know, post it in my story or whatnot, how long you got left to order this. But you definitely have time. I'm going to have this review up in plenty of time for you to order. So, this pack is, or excuse me, second half of the pack, part 2, Caffe Panna Fall Pack review, is CB Snick, Gingie's Pie, and, trying to get off the ice off of there, Pumpkin Ranger. We're kicking things off with CB Snick. So in short, the CB stands for Cafe Bianco, which was a flavor of theirs that's been around for a long time. It was in their first pack too. It's essentially a coffee-based flavor. And the Snick is for Snickerdoodle. So the description of this pint is a coffee-infused sweet cream ice cream. Then there's crunch-coated Snickerdoodle cookie dough. And that's finished off with a spiced cookie swirl. So tons of mix-ins, as you can see here. Now I'm having a really tough time with this one, and it's not because of those mix-ins. Well, they're fantastic. We'll dive into that shortly. But there's a pretty big flaw, and that's the coffee ice cream. So you're supposed to have this, like I said, this coffee, it's cold steep coffee into this sweet cream base, which leaves you with this bright white coffee flavor. However, I'm getting 0 coffee, like literally none. So, I mean, I'm a sweet cream guy. It's fantastic. I love it. But however, I'm also a huge coffee fan, so I was really looking forward to that. So basically, this is a pretty big and unusual swing and a miss from Caffe Panna. I almost think something was unintentionally left out. Obviously, the coffee was unintentionally left out because, like I said, the Caffe Bianco, which I've scooped before, you can go back and watch the review, was a very bold and strong coffee flavor that you would easily notice was a part of the base. And personally, I think both of these mix-ins would have... Sorry, Scoops is just chilling here, laying, watching me. Hey, bud, you want to make an appearance? He's a mess. So, what I was getting at, both of these mix-ins I think would have paired perfectly with the coffee. And the crunch-coated Snickerdoodle cookie dough, it's tough to say, is a complete first for me. So, basically, just think of it as like a Snickerdoodle cookie. They crumble it up, they break it into crumbs, and then they coat the cookie dough in it. So, texturally, the coating, the Snickerdoodle coating is crunchy. I don't want to call it an overcooked cookie, but it is a slightly crunchier cookie, or even a baked pie crust. And then the filling is your typical gritty, chewy, slightly gooey cookie dough filling. The flavor doesn't scream Snickerdoodle, but there is an obvious extra burst of cinnamon sugar. It isn't that noticeable because you have to remember that within that Snickerdoodle coating is the cookie dough filling. Actually, a lot of cookie dough. You can see the large chunks here. So you still have this very sweet brown sugar cookie dough flavor that's mixed with the Snickerdoodle cookie coating. Spice cookie swirl. Now, I didn't really know exactly where this was going because they didn't call it speculoos, cookie butter, gingerbread, whatever you want to call it, Biscoff. They didn't call it that. It's our own house-made variation. But upon first bite, it's obviously all of that, whatever you want to call it. Cookie butter, Biscoff. Sweet, buttery, full. I mean full of spices. And it's like they took it right from the jar and swirled in this thick, gooey crack all throughout the pint. This 100% had the chance to be another amazing scoop. And it still is great with the sweet cream. But give me that coffee ice cream, Caffe Panna. 8 out of 10. Next up, Pumpkin Ranger. Pumpkin ice cream, house-made chocolate fudge chunks, aka Ranger chunks, signature mix-in of Caffe Panna, salted caramel swirl, and graham crunch. Now, this is probably the most eye appeal of the entire pack. I mean, it does have Ranger chunks in it, which is arguably one of the best ice cream mix-ins to grace the ice cream world. In fact, I still have a pint of chocolate Ranger in my freezer from a Christmas pack. I bet Hallie's about to stroke out with me saying that right now. Anyway, here's a glimpse of it, so let's dig in. While we're talking about these Ranger chunks, let's start there. So they're both great, or good. They're both good and bad for this particular flavor. The good, think of an a gooey brownie or even some soft ganache for their amazingly soft and chewy texture. Also, they taste magnificent, but are extremely flavorful. Very rich, very chocolatey, very fudgy, maybe even a little bitter, which leads me to the bad. They are so good and flavorful, such a strong, pronounced chocolate flavor that they overpower nearly everything else in this ice cream, including this pumpkin ice cream. Now the pumpkin flavor, it's very natural and it's sans spice. So it's just a milky, creamy pumpkin that's mildly sweet. And if you can remember back to my Gilbert's review of gooey pumpkin, say a week or so ago, Caffe Panna's flavor is very similar to that in the fact that they don't spice things up, pun intended, with this pumpkin ice cream. I think the salted caramel swirl would have played into this flavor very nicely, but unfortunately there wasn't enough of it to truly impact the pint. There was one, maybe two swirls at the top of the pint when I opened the lid, and I got to give it to them. Those pools did have a nice sweet, salty flavor to them, and even had your typical caramel gooiness texture. Caffe Panna's graham crunch is next level stuff, but they're a bit smaller than usual in this flavor. So here's what you need to know. Much welcomed crispy crunchiness. I mean, that's perfect, but you really only taste their buttery honey graham flavor with the pumpkin alone. Like I said earlier, if you get any part of those Ranger chunks, that's all you're tasting. Caffe Panna asks you in the description of this flavor, is this the best Ranger? I definitely don't think so, especially with the many varieties they have. Nonetheless, if you're a fan of the pumpkin and chocolate combination, this is a solid scoop. 7.5 out of 10. Last flavor of the pack, Gingie's Pie, which is a graham cracker ice cream with gingerbread chunks and a pumpkin pie swirl. Now I say it all the time, and I'm gonna say it again. Anything graham cracker is pretty tough to pull off, especially a base or ice cream. Now with this one, there's certainly bites where I do taste graham cracker, but it's hard to get a true feel for it because of all these gingerbread crumbs or chunks, which leads me to my first point. They're little crumb or crumbles scattered throughout the entire pint, top to bottom. And they have a crispy and soft crunchiness to them as well. And B, Caffe Panna nailed the gingerbread flavor, especially the spice, which is why it's the dominant flavor of the two when compared to the graham. It's full of nutmeg, cloves, ginger, and cinnamon. But with that, there's also some honey and molasses that plays into the graham cracker ice cream, which is why I said it's truly hard to get a feel for the graham cracker base. Nonetheless, it's a very good combination of flavors, which leaves us with the pumpkin pie swirl. And it's an easy explanation. It tastes like pumpkin pie, and the consistency is just like pumpkin pie. Soft, gooey, mushy, just like the filling of a pumpkin pie, but in the form of a swirl. It may be a tad softer, but you get the point. And the flavor, it has those similar spices of gingerbread. Nutmeg, cloves, ginger, cinnamon, but it's sweeter with a milkier, almost custard-like flavor because of the addition of eggs. This is basically a replication of pumpkin pie, and a very good one at that. The pumpkin pie swirl obviously acts as the pie filling. Then you have both the gingerbread chunks and the graham cracker ice cream acting as your pie crust. 9 out of 10. So after finishing part 2 of the Caffe Panna Paul Pack review, we've now done all 6 pints, and the big question is, do I think it's worth your money, or your calories, whatever you guys call it. I do think it's worth that. Many of you have already bought it, and the few of you who haven't, if you're watching this trying to be convinced or seeing what these ratings are, yeah, we may not have had as many that are 9 or higher, but I bet the average comes out as probably the best of the 4 packs she's now released. And B, it's that special time of year. It's one of my favorite times of the year, and this is full of fall flavors that you don't really get with any other companies in one pack together. So with that in mind, I say go out and buy it. You have just a week or 2 left, so make sure to venture out, support them, and I'm telling you, you will enjoy every bit of this ice cream pack. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next review.